When I quietly moved our joint savings into a separate account, my wife lost her damn mind. But what she didn't realize, I was already 5 steps ahead and she was walking straight into her own trap. I don't even know how to start this without sounding bitter. But here it is, my wife tried to play me. She thought she was being smart, sneaky, calculated. Turns out she was playing checkers. I was playing chess. And now she's sitting in a half-empty condo realizing she blew up her life over something she thought she'd already won. We were married 4 years, together for 6. Let's call her Mel. Beautiful, put together, the type who had a color-coded planner and matching highlighters. I used to admire how driven she was, how she always seemed to have a vision. Yeah? I realized I wasn't part of that vision for a long time. I'm 34, run a small but solid IT consulting firm. Remote, profitable, flexible. Mel's 32, works in corporate marketing, big job, big meetings, big ambition. Everyone around us used words like power couple. Nice apartment, no kids, solid income. We were supposed to be building something. But 6 months ago, the cracks started showing. Her phone, once casually left on the kitchen counter, now followed her everywhere. Bathroom, laundry room, shower. It chirped and buzzed at odd hours. When I glanced over once, she angled it away like I was trying to steal nuclear codes. Work's just chaotic lately, she'd say, not even looking up from the screen. Then it got stranger. Late-night texts. Calls she took on the balcony. Her laughter sounding different. Like it wasn't meant for me anymore. And then the finances. That's when I knew something was off. Hey babe, she said one Tuesday, casually slicing into her salad like she wasn't about to derail our entire marriage. Have you ever thought about merging all our accounts? Like really merging. For security. Emergencies and stuff. Now, we did have a joint savings. That was always the deal, a shared goals, shared pot. But most of our actual spending stayed separate. It worked for us. Or at least, it worked for me. But now? She wanted full access. All cards on the table. I just stared at her for a beat too long, chewing slower than usual. That's kind of out of the blue. She shrugged, not really. It just makes sense. What if something happened to you and I needed access fast? I nodded. Smiled. But inside? Red flags. Sirens. Smoke pouring out the dashboard. So I waited. For a week, I played dumb. Brought her flowers. Took her to her favorite sushi spot. Told her I'd think about the account stuff. All while quietly running scenarios in my head like a guy in a hostage movie. What does she know? How long has this been going on? Am I the fool or the finale? Then, on a Friday when she was at happy hour with coworkers, I logged into our joint savings. Moved every cent, $46, $118 and change, into a new account under my name. Left exactly $1,200 in the old one. Enough to avoid suspicion. Just enough to say, see? I'm not hiding anything. It felt cold. Calculated. Not like me at all. But it also felt necessary. That night, she came home wearing lipstick I hadn't seen before. Hair curled. Perfume that didn't smell like hers. And when I asked, how was happy hour, she paused just a second too long, then smiled. Fun. We ended up doing karaoke. You would have hated it. I nodded. Next time, take video. I want to see you hit those high notes. She laughed. Kissed my cheek. Walked away. I stood there for another 30 seconds, listening to the click of her heels down the hallway, wondering what version of her just walked past me. 2 days later, I caught her checking the joint account. She stared at the screen a little too long. Her smile slipped, just barely. And that's when I knew the countdown had begun. 2 weeks after I moved the money, Mel filed for divorce. Said it was for her peace of mind. I let her talk. Then I showed her what I already knew. If I had to pinpoint the moment I knew she was going to pull the trigger, it was a Thursday morning. Ordinary in every way except it wasn't. She made coffee like usual, hers black, mine with oat milk. She wore a silky cream blouse tucked into those tailored navy pants she knew made her look like she owned the damn boardroom. But something in the way she didn't kiss me goodbye said everything. She grabbed her keys, hesitated in the doorway, then just said, "Don't forget to water the monstera. It's drooping." That was it. No, see you tonight, no, love you. Just a comment about a plan. And then she was gone. That night she came home late. No explanation. Just kicked off her heels and poured herself a glass of wine. Not her usual red. White. Chardonnay. She only drank white when she was anxious or hiding something. Said red made her too honest. I watched her sip, standing in the kitchen like she didn't owe me a damn thing. "Everything okay?" I asked. She smiled, tight and practiced. "Yeah. Just a long day. We landed a new client. Huge contract." I nodded, pretending to believe her. "Congrats. You look tired." That got a little twitch in her jaw. A crack in the mask. I wanted her to say it. To admit what she was planning. But she didn't. Not that night. She just disappeared into the bedroom, scrolling through her phone with the screen tilted away from me. 2 days later, she dropped the bomb. We were sitting at the kitchen island. Saturday morning. She'd made pancakes. Blueberry, my favorite, like it was a peace offering from a guilty conscience. Halfway through breakfast, she put her fork down, cleared her throat, and said it. I think we should separate. I paused, still chewing. Not, I think we need to talk. Not, I'm not happy. No gradual build-up. Just a full stop. Separate, like a break? I asked slowly, setting my fork down. No. Like legally. I've already spoken to a lawyer. Just like that. 6 years, gone in one sentence. She didn't even flinch. I stared at her. Really looked. And for the first time in months, she actually met my eyes. I asked the question she wasn't expecting. Is there someone else? She blinked. That half-second hesitation again. No, she said too quickly. This isn't about anyone else. It's about me. About feeling stuck. About needing to start fresh. Right? The same phrase I'd heard her use on the phone 2 weeks ago when I caught her pacing outside that coffee shop. Starting fresh soon. She thought I hadn't heard. I stood up slowly, grabbed my mug, poured out the rest of my coffee in the sink. Let the silence stretch long enough to make her uncomfortable. Then I said, so when were you going to ask about the joint account? Her eyes narrowed. What do you mean? I turned, leaned against the counter. You've checked it 3 times in the past 2 weeks. You were expecting to see more in there, right? She froze. Was that part of the plan? I continued. File, grab the cash, and dip? You moved it, she said flatly. You moved our money. Yeah, I said, not denying it. Funny how you only started caring about our money right around the time you started making calls behind my back. Her voice sharpened. That was for legal preparation. I didn't want it to get messy. Messy like emptying a savings account and blindsiding your husband with divorce papers over pancakes? Her face went pale, but her jaw stayed locked. You lied to me, I said. About where you were going. About what you were doing. About why you suddenly needed to organize everything. I gave you space, Mel. I gave you trust. And you turned that into strategy. She stood now too, arms crossed. I had to, okay? I didn't feel safe anymore. That hit me like a slap. Safe? What the hell does that mean? She looked away, lips trembling, but the tears weren't real. Not yet. It means I didn't know who you were becoming, she muttered. No, it means you thought you could outmaneuver me, I snapped. You thought I'd sit here like a fool while you played lawyer games and prepped your escape. She said nothing. And now, I added, you're realizing you moved too fast. Because whatever plan you had, it just failed. Mel didn't answer. She just turned and walked into the bedroom, slammed the door. I stood in that kitchen for a long time. Coffee cold, pancakes untouched. My wedding band felt like lead on my finger. That night, I slept on the couch. She didn't come out once. 2 days later, I got the official filing notice. The divorce paperwork came in on a Tuesday morning. Certified mail. Neatly packaged. Just like her. I opened the envelope in silence. Mel wasn't home, probably at one of her staged strategy meetings, or more likely, spending her soon-to-be solo lunches rehearsing what she thought would be her fresh start. The petition was simple. Cold. Efficient. Like me in this marriage were just a spreadsheet she was auditing. It outlined a request for equitable division of marital assets. Translation, she wanted half of everything. I stared at that sentence longer than I should have. Half of everything. The woman who lied to my face. Hid her plans. Weaponized silence and called it clarity. She wanted half of the empire I built, plus control of the one savings account I'd left behind like a decoy. But I didn't react. I didn't scream or text her in all caps. I just folded the papers, poured myself a glass of whiskey even though it was barely noon, and made one call. My lawyer picked up on the second ring. Ready? He asked. Let's go, I said. See, while Mel was busy preparing for a clean escape, I'd been preparing too. The minute I suspected she was angling for something more than space, I began tracking every transaction. I had documentation. Screenshots. A timestamped list of the small withdrawals she thought I wouldn't notice. Even the lunch meeting I overheard from my car that afternoon outside the cafe, I'd recorded that. Nothing illegal. Just evidence. Proof that this wasn't just about unhappiness. It was about a plan. And I'd been patient. Let her file first. Let her walk confidently into the lion's den thinking she had control. Because when it all came to light, it would be her name on the chessboard with nowhere to move. 2 days after the filing, we had our first sit-down with the attorneys. We were supposed to be cordial. Professional. Keep it civil, they said. Mel walked into that office like she was on top of the world. Hair done, power blazer, a manila folder tucked under her arm like she was about to pitch a client instead of blow up our marriage. She didn't look at me once. The lawyers went through the formalities. Dates. Property. Then came the money talk. Mel's lawyer was a guy named Chad. Of course it was. Slick hair, fake tan, Rolex that was probably leased. He smiled like he'd already won. We believe our client is entitled to half of all liquid marital assets, including the balance in the joint savings account as of 30 days prior to the filing. My lawyer didn't flinch. Just reached into his briefcase and slid over a folder. Chad opened it. Read. Paused. Mel glanced over. Her smile faltered. Inside was a breakdown of every financial move I'd made in the past 60 days, including the quiet transfer. With a full affidavit showing my earnings, the percentage I contributed to the joint account compared to hers, and a forensic accountant's preliminary findings showing unexplained cash movements from her side. Chad cleared his throat. This wasn't disclosed. Mel leaned forward. What is this? My lawyer looked at her directly. It's the money you didn't think I saw you pulling. And the conversations you had about setting up a solo account in your sister's name. Her jaw tensed. That was for emergencies. My voice was calm, but it carried weight. No, Mel. That was for your exit plan. The one where you leave with half the money and a head start. Only the account's already closed. The funds are frozen under legal protection now. So, no head start. She didn't say anything. Just stared at the paperwork like it had personally betrayed her. Her lawyer leaned in. Perhaps we should take a short recess. Mel stood too fast. Knocked her water bottle over. She looked at me, then really looked for the first time in weeks. I met her gaze. Didn't blink. She thought she was the puppet master. Thought she could maneuver me out of my own life and ride away clean. But she forgot one thing. I wasn't reacting. I was recording. After that meeting, something changed. Mel still pretended she was in control, but I saw it right there in the little things. How her texts got shorter. How she stopped slamming cabinet doors when she moved through the kitchen. How the perfume she used to drown herself and disappeared entirely. She was quieter. Not apologetic, not yet. But shaken. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about losing control. And control was her currency. She didn't talk to me for 2 days after the lawyer meeting. She didn't need to. The silence said it all. I let her stew in it. Let her think. Let her imagine the fallout if this went public. Because here's the part no one knew, her company had a very strict ethics clause. Real strict. If it got out that she'd misrepresented her financial standing, used legal deception to try and take advantage of a marital account during a divorce, she'd be done. No promotion. No future board seat. Gone. Just like that. She knew I knew that. She just didn't know how much I was willing to lose to make sure I wasn't the only one bleeding. On the third morning, she came into the kitchen while I was making eggs. She stood there like she didn't know how to speak. Like the act of asking for anything felt foreign. You made coffee, she said, voice soft. Yep, I said without looking up. Plenty left. She stood there, one hand gripping the back of the dining chair, the other rubbing her wrist. A nervous tick. I used to think it was cute. Now it just looked like guilt trying to escape. I've been thinking, she said finally. Maybe we rushed into this. Maybe we should talk. I plated my eggs. Sat down. Now you want to talk? I said, not angry, just tired. You ghosted our marriage for 6 months, started moving money behind my back, filed without warning. And now, because it didn't go your way, you're thinking maybe we rushed? Her eyes dropped. She reached for her mug but didn't drink. I panicked, she said. I felt stuck. I didn't know how to bring it up without blowing everything up. So you decided to blow it up anyway. Just behind closed doors. She didn't deny it. Didn't even flinch. I didn't think you'd notice, she whispered. There it was. Honest. Pathetic. Real. You didn't think I'd notice? I repeated. After 6 years of building a life with you? She finally looked at me. No, I thought you'd be too passive. You always were. And there it was again, the insult behind the confession. The reason she thought she'd win. Mel had always mistaken my calm for weakness. When I didn't escalate during fights, she assumed I was soft. When I didn't snoop through her phone, she thought I was naive. She didn't realize that peace doesn't mean surrender. Sometimes it just means patience. Do you want to undo this? I asked quietly. Or are you just trying to salvage the parts that benefit you? She didn't answer. And silence, real silence, is an answer all its own. A few days later, I found a message on my laptop. She'd logged in while I was out and typed a draft email to her lawyer. It was still sitting in the drafts folder like she hadn't decided whether to send it. Subject, possible mediation. Hi Chad, after speaking with me, I'm thinking it might be best to pause the current filing and consider mediation or reconciliation depending on how things go. Can we schedule a call? Mel? She hadn't sent it yet, but she was wavering. Not out of love, not out of guilt, but because she realized she didn't win. And Mel doesn't like to lose. That weekend, she asked if we could sit down and really talk. She wanted to walk through what had gone wrong. Said maybe counseling could help. Said she didn't expect me to forgive her, but maybe we could rebuild. I said I'd think about it. But the truth? I already had. The day Mel finally asked to talk seriously, it felt like she was walking into a job interview. Fresh blowout, neutral tone blouse, no makeup except lip balm and mascara, the I'm vulnerable but still put together look. She sat on the couch like it wasn't the same place she used to ignore me for hours while doom scrolling and sipping wine. I want to apologize, she started, folding her hands in her lap. I didn't interrupt. Just nodded, letting her fill the silence she used to weaponize. She went on, giving a performance she probably rehearsed in the mirror. Her tone was soft but rehearsed, like someone who'd Googled how to sound sincere after screwing someone over. I wasn't trying to hurt you, she said. I felt like we were drifting. I didn't know how to say what I needed without starting a war. So you started one behind my back, I said. She flinched. I know. And I'm sorry. That part actually sounded real. But I wasn't sure if she was sorry for what she did or sorry that it didn't work. I want to try again, she said after a moment. No more secrets. No more games. I stared at her for a long time. You filed for divorce, I said flatly. You lawyered up. You tried to bleed me out and disappear. And now that it didn't go how you thought, now you want a second chance. Her eyes glistened. I just want to fix this. Fix what? I asked. Your reputation? Your account balance? Your convenience? She stood up then, started pacing. No. This. Us. I lost sight of what mattered. I thought I could do better on my own, and maybe that was the biggest lie I ever told myself. I leaned back on the couch, arms crossed. You don't miss me. You miss the stability. You miss knowing someone had your back while you plotted your exit. No, she said quickly, but her voice cracked. That's not what happened. I tilted my head. Then tell me what did. She froze. Because she couldn't. Not without unraveling the last 3 months of her own narrative. I had dinner with your sister last week, I said casually. She told me you've been asking if I've been dating anyone. Mel's expression flickered. A mix of jealousy, confusion, and dread. I haven't, I said. But not for the reasons you think. She didn't speak, so I stood and walked toward the kitchen. I haven't been dating, I said over my shoulder, because I've been too busy building the next version of my life. And spoiler alert, it doesn't include someone who thought I was plan B while she lined up plan C. She followed me into the kitchen. I made a mistake. People do. But you don't just throw away a marriage because someone screws up. You didn't just screw up, I cut in. You orchestrated a betrayal. You made decisions every single day that said he's not worth telling the truth to. That's not a slip-up, Mel. That's a mindset. The room went silent again. The fridge buzzed. A car honked outside. Then she whispered, so that's it. No, I said. That's not it. She looked up, hopeful for a second. That's me being done, I finished. You? You've still got a lot to unravel. She sat down hard at the dining table. I saw it in her face, the weight of realizing she didn't have any more moves to play. A few minutes later, she asked the question I'd been expecting. Do you want me to move out? And here's the part one hadn't told her yet. I already bought a new place. Quietly. Cleanly. Under my name only. No, I said. You can keep this apartment. I'll be gone in a week. She blinked. Wait, what? I'm not kicking you out, Mel. That's not my style. But don't confuse that with forgiveness. Where are you going? She asked. I smiled, picked up my keys. Somewhere I don't have to be reminded of who you turned into. And then I left her there, sitting in a space filled with everything she thought she controlled. But the one thing she couldn't? Me. It's been 3 months since I walked out. 3 months since I dropped the keys to the apartment on the counter, packed the last of my things into a rented SUV, and left without so much as a goodbye hug. She didn't chase me. Didn't call. Didn't even text that night. I think she thought I was bluffing. That I'd get cold feet and show up the next day with flowers and an apology for making things so difficult. But I didn't. Because I was already gone long before I physically left. I moved into a small loft about 15 minutes outside the city. Exposed brick. Quiet street. It's not flashy, but it feels like mine. No echoes of her laughter turning sharp. No wine-stained arguments at midnight. Just space. Just stillness. At first, I waited. Not for her to come back, but for the next part of her story to begin. I assumed there'd be someone waiting in the wings. A soft landing. A rebound dressed up like reinvention. But weeks passed. Then months. No ring. No Facebook update. No new guy on her Instagram. In fact, less of everything. Her story slowed. Her smile, the performative one she used in every group selfie, disappeared. I stopped checking eventually. Because I didn't care where she was, only that I wasn't there. Then the texts started. Small at first. Casual. Hope you're well. The mail keeps coming here for you. Saw your sister the other day. She misses you. And then came the one that made me pause. I didn't realize how much space you held until it was empty. That one sat with me. Because it was true. I had filled the quiet. Paid the bills. Fixed the small things. Kept the peace. Gave her room to shine while I dimmed. Not because I was weak, but because I thought that's what love was. Letting someone expand even if it meant shrinking yourself. But now I know real love doesn't ask you to disappear. The last time I saw her, it wasn't planned. I ran into her at a cafe near my office. She looked thinner. Tired. Makeup-free in a way that wasn't stylish, just hollow. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Hey, she said, fiddling with the strap of her bag. Hey, I said back, polite but distant. We chatted for a minute, small talk about the weather, work, some mutual friends. Then she just blurted it out. I miss you. I looked at her. At the woman I once thought I'd grow old with. The woman who tried to erase me with paperwork and polite betrayal. I believe you, I said. But I don't miss who I was with you. She swallowed hard. Nodded. And that was it. She didn't ask to get back together. She didn't beg. She just stood there like someone who'd been holding the wrong script too long and finally realized the ending wasn't going to change. That night, she texted again. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I'd just been honest? I didn't respond. Some questions don't deserve answers. Just consequences. A week later, I heard from a mutual friend that Mel's company had restructured. Translation, she got quietly phased out after some internal audit. Maybe it was the accountant I used. Maybe karma has better timing than I do. Either way, she was out. She moved back into her sister's spare room. Sold a few designer bags. Listed our apartment for rent. A clean slate that now felt like a mausoleum. Meanwhile, I'm thriving. I hired 2 new people at my firm. Started going to the gym again. Reconnected with old friends who'd said I seemed lost the last year of my marriage. And last weekend, I met someone. It's new. It's light. There are no games. She listens when I talk, laughs without checking her phone, and doesn't flinch when I mention hard things. She doesn't remind me of Mel. And that's the best part. So yeah. My wife was furious when I moved our money. 2 weeks later, she filed for divorce. Thought she had it all mapped out. But the thing about building your escape plan off someone else's foundation? If they pull the floorboards out from under you, you fall. And now? She's looking up from the wreckage, realizing the only thing she really destroyed was her own future.